Hello, everyone. Welcome to our Illumio recording for Ignite. We're excited to be a part of this. And, we want to talk today specifically about having confidence, moving to the cloud, generating the confidence to do that, though, really is the secret to success. And so moving and migrating to the cloud is a trend we aren't going to see go away anytime soon. You guys are in the thick of it now, figuring a lot of things out. And what we want to talk about today specifically, I'll share my screen and start, is cloud native visibility and control. That's what we believe is the secret to enabling migration to the cloud with full confidence that threats and unnecessary exposure of your network isn't rendering imminent threats to your environments. And we know that there's not a shortage of hackers out there. So let's talk about some of the business and technical trends that we're noticing at Illumio for 2022 and frankly onward for quite a while. So first one, let me just kind of group these into business versus technical. The distributed enterprise, we fully embraced in 2020. We're seeing the consequences of that unfold. Some of them might be surprising to some and maybe not so much to others. But it is coming with some consequences, both positive and some obstacles, I'll call them, versus negative, that we have to overcome with new ideas and new paradigm models that support these environments that are highly distributed, very diverse, and some less secure than others. Which brings me to the dissolving perimeter, right? In the dissolving perimeter, we're looking at not so clear-cut access and lateral movement across very robust dynamic environments and applications that are servicing and delivering all of these goods and ways of operating that we're so accustomed to today, with just more entry points into the network it's accompanied by. And so in order to protect the perimeter, you have to think about it as something a little more abstract than north-south entry points to your environments, like saying there's only 2 entrances to your house, when in reality you have multiple windows and maybe more entrances than 2, right? So maybe a bad analogy, but you get the point, hopefully. And shift left, this is really where the business model starts to take a shift and impacts. We're seeing the impact in the technology trends. And that is, how do you put security controls in the hands of personnel that maybe is your app development team or your whatever the case might be. You're using teams of people that aren't usually in control of the security posture, and telling them to enforce that at the beginning, middle, and full stages of the development lifecycle. Well, that comes with some consequences, some IT misalignment, some lack of resources, expertise. We're seeing a lot of that. But ultimately, all of those things have to get figured out because we are in the reinvention economy, as Gartner put it. And that is, the digital currency in this economy is creativity. And so to be able to stay agile and innovative and creative, and how we distribute and go to market, we're going to have to think about IT decentralization, cloud native platforms, infrastructure as code, CI/CD to help move us along in a way that is as dynamic and ephemeral as the environments we're servicing to in our culture and our communities and all of the above. So with that said, let me get into some challenges that come with cloud migration. The first thing is going to be cloud blind spots, of course, because when you're moving to different types of environments, the same tools that we used before aren't necessarily going to translate into these cloud native workloads. Maybe you've been operating in the cloud, but you haven't been leveraging cloud native infrastructure. And maybe you're just putting portions of your workloads, critical infrastructure, whatever it might be, into those environments and still learning and aligning your teams and changing your business models and all these things. But when you do that, you can't use agents. And so visibility between workloads in highly ephemeral environments very sparse. You don't necessarily know how your applications are behaving, what they're communicating with. And so that presents a problem because now you have security gaps, you have a lack of application awareness, and all of this drives some more risk and hesitation for migration to the cloud. So we're talking about this paradigm shift here where you have a new model being adopted very rapidly because the pressure applied post 2020 just accelerated a lot of digital transformation needs. And that accelerated the need and urgency for cloud adoption. And so these new models are being adopted faster than the processes can catch up and adjust and adapt. And so what CloudSecure does is make it very easy to take a complex initiative, big picture vision, and simplify an initiative like Zero Trust into something very practical and seamless and easy to deploy and implement that gives you instant insights and visibility into application workloads, which immediately assesses your security posture and analyzes the threat, the attack surface based on actual data that's coming from your application workloads. And then we reduce the security threat by shutting down unnecessary network exposure with rule recommendations that say, hey, this is what your traffic is doing. This is what we suggest you reduce your security group role to. And that way we can have orchestrated enforcement across not just the managed workloads with Illumio Core, another product of ours, but also with agentless solution using CloudSecure, so we can see all the unmanaged workloads. And so we'll get into a little more detail about what that looks like. But let's talk about the problem that CloudSecure is actually solving for in a very succinct way. You get the introduction of visibility gaps whenever you're leveraging hybrid multi-cloud deployments, which, let's face it, most of us are in those situations or will be heading in that direction. And those visibility gaps that we're realizing comes with that adoption. It highlights a major security gap across those dispersed architectures altogether. So you can't secure what you can't see. We're not applying security policies consistently across these diverse environments, and that's causing a problem for organizations as well. So embracing the cloud with confidence in 3 simple steps. It's to collect insights from your cloud environments or your application workloads in the cloud environments. And then being able to assess what that risk looks like and optimize your security posture by providing least privilege access, consistently applying that security group policy across all of your environments as they're translated from one cloud to another, or going back to your data center and or to the customer. So let's look at what Illumio CloudSecure looks like in a little bit more detail. All right, so in essence, this is what a workflow would look like for you using CloudSecure. You think about, okay, how is this going to change my day-to-day workflow? How is this going to give me real visibility that is actually going to give me confidence? Well, ask yourself now, what security groups do we have? In those security groups, are they all in one VPC? Are they multiple VPCs? Do you have cohesive visibility? Feel like just in that one single VPC or across multiple? Do you have multiple cloud environments? What do your security groups look like over there in, say, Azure? Well, what flows are the security groups actually allowing? So this is where it becomes tricky to answer these questions. And if you think through these and ask yourself, how are you actually accomplishing these things today? It might be more difficult to say than right out of the gate. I mean, how do we reduce our attack surface when we can't understand the flows between our own applications, our own traffic? And one might say, well, in the case of AWS, you scrub the VPC flow log. Well, that might be time sensitive and tedious task that just leaves us behind. And we know that doesn't work forever. So seeing all of your groups in one place across all of your different accounts, AWS to Azure to on-prem, all of your various regions, and then actually seeing through an application dependency mapping that's automatically generated in near real time. So it's constantly updated, and it's saying this is how all of your applications can communicate, how they are behaving, makes it very easy to spot anomalies very quickly. And from there, what is your actual traffic that's communicating with the application versus what do you need? And so being able to have that reflected back in near real time is very useful in optimizing the security groups or network policy. And so from a high level diagram perspective, you have on the far right, the orange square that is representing our Illumio core PCE, which connects you back to the CloudSecure environment. From there, once we're connected to your cloud back to our environment, then we can collect the object metadata and then give you the flow logs in a relational way through the application dependency mapping, which then is translated to suggested policy that you can either deploy directly through programming using Terraform or whatever you might be leveraging, or you can download them as templates and implement them in your infrastructure as code. So this is how CloudSecure works in a very high level visual using the agentless controls. But ultimately what we're accomplishing here is cloud native visibility where you can't apply an agent. So that helps us eliminate the blind spots or any security gaps that we have in a single console, looking at your managed and unmanaged workloads, and then traffic flow insights to better understand application behavior and how your security policies are actually being enforced for each workload. And so you can really accomplish the zero trust practice of workload to workload segmentation. And then finally, it's the optimizing of your security posture so that you can abide by best practices like least privilege access, untrusted until verified. And those are your zero trust staples and pillars. And to be able to do that in all of your environments without any gaps is going to be critical to success. So with that, I thank you for your time. I hope this information was helpful for you and that you enjoy the rest of your presentations today.